What's up guys, I'm Zach Mayfield. Today we're going to be talking about the Blackmagic URSA G2. This video is for the Blackmagic lovers out there. I am recently new to the Blackmagic family. I snagged the URSA G2. Been loving it so far. I haven't had it for super long, but there's also not a lot of YouTube content yet on this camera, so I just wanted to share my rig with you guys. This isn't going to be a review of any kind. I'm just going to share my specific rig and all the little pieces I have and why I chose them. So right off the bat, you can tell that this thing is long AF. It's so freaking huge. I actually don't mind the weight. It's not as bad as Reds that I've worked with. Those are freaking tanks. It looks huge, but it's really manageable. Even handheld, I enjoy it. The reason why it's so long is mostly because of the SSD reader on the back of this thing. You can see there's a little magic trap door that opens up and there's an SSD in there. I chose SSDs for a couple different reasons. One, I don't mind the length of the camera. It adds about an extra 1.5 inches to the length. I really don't mind that. I don't mind a little extra weight. SSDs are way cheaper than CFast cards, and I think they're more reliable and just easier to work with in post-production overall. And it's so nice, you can just pop this SSD right out of the camera. So they're just standard 2.5-inch SATA drives, and they just slip right into the old URSA. And that's backwards, so. Wow. You will need to grab a cable like this, but these are super cheap on either Amazon or B&H. And I'll have links to everything that I'm using here in the comments section. My problem with CFast cards is they're kind of floppy, they're super expensive, and on here in the camera there's this little trap door for CFast, and it's kind of just exposed. So if you're filming in an area that was really dirty or wet or anything like that, the risk of them getting damaged seems to be higher to me than if you were just using the SSD holder. And another great benefit is you can edit straight off of these drives. If you have a quick turnaround project, all your footage is already on here, so grab your cable, plug it into your computer, import it into your editing system. I chose these crucial 1 terabyte drives. It gives me enough record time for pretty much any project I'm doing, whether that's corporate or music videos, but typically we shoot in all Blackmagic RAW, which is freaking awesome, by the way. I'm so glad to be using that, and these drives get it done. They're about $100 each, super cheap. There's also 2 terabyte versions. When you do pop one of these boys into your little URSA, what can you do? What can you record? The typical frame rates that I use for my projects are 24, 60, 120, and 150. It's just so awesome what you can do with this camera. So I tested what kind of compression you can shoot with each of those frame rates to get the highest amount of quality possible, and there just are slight limitations that we need to talk about. In the full 4.6K at 24 frames per second, you can shoot at 3:1 compression, which is the lowest amount of compression if you're not shooting for Q0 or Q5, which I honestly don't touch. So 3:1 is the lowest amount of compression, which is the greatest quality. In 4.6K 60 frames per second, you can shoot at 3:1 as well, so you're still getting all that quality in 60. You can shoot 4.6K 120p at 8:1. So you can't do 3:1 or 5:1. The card will just stop writing. And there's a setting in this camera where if you start to drop frames, it will automatically stop recording. And I do recommend keeping that on. That way you don't think you're doing an entire take and wasting everybody's time on set. Or just know your limitations before going into your shoot. That's the best option. This camera also does 150 frames per second in 4K DCI. So sick. And you can also do 8:1. That's the least amount of compression you can do with 150p. And then finally, if you shoot in 2K, you can get 300 frames per second in Blackmagic RAW. There is a pretty significant crop. You can do that 300 frames per second in 3:1, which is amazing. All right, holy crap, that was a lot of numbers. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. When you put a freaking V-mount on this thing is super huge. It's long. This is, I think, wider than my whole body, yeah. You gotta see this thing with the 50 to 100 on it. It looks hilarious. All right, look at that. It looks so beefy though. It feels like a machine gun. I know that in the world of mirrorless shooting, it is definitely nice to have lightweight cameras. Personally, when it comes to client work or just higher end production, I really like heavier cameras. A lot of times we use Reds on our productions and they're freaking heavy, and it definitely requires an easy rig if you want to shoot for long periods of time. This camera we use the easy rig on as well, but it's honestly not as heavy as the Red, and it's totally manageable handheld. And there are these little tiny rubber feet right here. You probably can't see them, but there's little rubber pads, and it just makes it nice to just set down on set in between takes and stuff. I shoot a ton of handheld stuff, and having a heavier camera like this, as opposed to shooting on something like the GH5 right here, actually gives the handheld footage a better look in my opinion. The weight and the nice balance just kind of smooths the handheld footage out, where it's not super micro jittery like some small cameras are. The only drawback is potentially flying this thing on a gimbal. I honestly think it's a better idea to get something like the Pocket 4K or Pocket 6K and one of the Zhiyun gimbals or something. Like the Crane 3 holds a ton of weight, and just having that as your dedicated gimbal camera. Now I want to nerd out about batteries, okay? Batteries are cool. I like batteries. They're freaking expensive, but hey, you gotta have them. I just got these recently, and one of them already has this freaking dent in it. I went with the Core SWX Hypercore, gotta look at my notes, Slim V mounts. These, you do have your little notification bar here with 4 bars, but also, if you press this fun little airplane button, it lights up this LED screen and gives you an exact percentage and hour runtime. And it's very accurate. Baby, it just works. And I don't know about you guys, but the look of my rig is really important to me. Kind of like wearing clothes that make you feel confident. Having a rig that you're proud of and that looks nice is not only gonna make you feel confident and help you perform better, but it's gonna impress your client too. And that is definitely part of video production, is impressing the client and doing a good job with the things that we have. So I highly recommend these. I think they're $275 each, really expensive, but honestly kind of standard for V mounts. So they have like a matte rubbery finish, not plastic, and they're durable. It feels like you could throw these off a cliff and never find it again, but it's probably at the bottom of the cliff, still working. Now we're gonna talk about, I gotta swap this lens. This is too much. It is heavy, it's a little heavy, not gonna lie. By the way, these Sigma lenses on this camera, deadly combo. Let's talk about the accessories I chose to put on my camera and why I chose these specific pieces. And again, everything will be in the comment section. I'll have a gear list for you guys if you want to check it out. So I got a side plate and a top cheese plate for the URSA G2, and they were both for the previous generation of URSA, but through forums and random digging on the internet, I found out that they do fit this camera, so don't be nervous about buying those. They do fit perfectly, and they look great. They're nice and flush on the camera, as you can see. It doesn't take a lot of extra space. I went with this top handle from Small Rig. It works with a NATO rail, and it's got a wood undergrip, which I really like because my hands get sweaty. And I had this previous top handle. It works for small cameras, but when I get really sweaty, it kind of slips out of my hand. So this one has a little indentation and it's made of wood. I like it. And I put it on this big ass NATO rail here. Also, the cheese plate has a built-in NATO rail, but I wanted my handle a little bit back farther so I could adjust balance. And I also put an additional small NATO rail back here. We're just railed out, boys. That's it. We're railed out. That just looks nice. I like that. And then on the side handle here, I have another NATO rail down here, just a really small one. I have a microphone mount, just a cold shoe. This side plate has a rosette mount, and then another NATO rail. How many NATOs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 NATO rails on this. So I chose this side handle. I think I'm not a super big fan of it yet. I'm still testing it. Originally, I wanted to have it on the top rail here, but it sticks down too far, so when I want to set it on a table, it kind of leans up. I don't like that. So I've been putting it this way. I've been putting it on the side like this, and it works, but it's a little bit too far away from the camera's body. So what I think I'm gonna do is ditch this and buy a pretentious wooden rosette handle and put it here so it's nice and tight on the body of the camera, just to give a better grip. Now let's talk about the monitor. Flippy screen. It's almost a vlog screen. It's so close. Come on, Blackmagic. It would have been kind of cool if they would have made it a flippy screen, because then you can just use it as a desk camera too. The quality of the screen on this camera is nice, especially the peaking and the zebras and stuff. There's a built-in LUT in this camera, but I have had one issue with this monitor. Me and my boys were filming a music video in New York a couple months ago. It was super fun, and this was our B cam. We were filming in a really cold room with a bunch of haze, and we were shooting in 120p in RAW. I don't know if it was just too much for the camera to handle, but this monitor just had some ghosting effects. When I would move around, you would see doubling from, it looked like a ghosting effect. It made me super nervous, so we just plugged in an SDI monitor to the camera through the SDI out here. Luckily, there was nothing wrong with the actual signal coming from the camera. It was just this monitor, and it was just that one situation that I had that problem. I do think I'm gonna go ahead and get the Atomos Shinobi. The Ninja 5, I would just use that on this camera, but this camera has no HDMI. An SDI in and out here, but that's being taken up by my SSD reader. Luckily, Blackmagic is smart. They thought of everything, and they put another SDI out here. I'm gonna use a small rig monitor mount, which I have already for my GH5, and put the Shinobi on top of that. The Shinobi has SDI in and out and HDMI. All right, guys, thank you for bearing with me through this little rig rundown. Actually, not so little rig rundown. I'm really excited about this camera, and I just wanna figure out everything about it, master this thing, and then eventually put out a review. Kind of more Philip Bloom style. I appreciate that he learns his cameras to completion and then shares his knowledge with people. But if you guys have any questions about the G2, my rig, or suggestions or anything, I would love to hear from you guys in the comments and just talk about this camera and nerd out. I do have some more videos coming out about this camera very soon, but if you have any specific ideas for me, let me know and I can do something to cover it. Because I am doing videos every other day for this entire year. I actually have to upload this one today, so I better get to that. Thank you just for watching this. Let's keep nerding out together, huh? Subscribe, bye. OMG, look at these people on the screen. Who are these people, you might ask? These are my top tier Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much. I want to shout out Dylan Cabral and Elisha Ruman. You guys are just the freaking best. See ya.